Hello, everybody. And of course, welcome back to another episode of XtalknIsh with your boy X.
And Ish.
You already know what to do. If you are on Facebook, please make sure you like and share this broadcast. If you are on our Facebook page, go ahead and hit the like button on our Facebook page at XtalknIsh as well. If you are on YouTube, go ahead and hit that red subscribe button and that notification bell so you can be notified for shows like this one in the future.
Ding.
Thank you for that, Ish. And as well, if you are on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, check us out on Periscope, XtalknIsh, and as well my personal page at X_Williams81. I went ahead and retweeted that already. So no excuses on why you can't check us out. As always, here we are back once again on Tuesday nights to recap week 13 of the NFL season. We appreciate everybody for tuning in as always, either through the live feed or in the replay on our social media pages and of course through the podcast. So as always, if you guys have anything for us to talk to us about, I know I get calls all the time throughout the week when it comes to people that just talk to me about football. You're more welcome to hit us up. Besides Ish being very, very busy, don't call him when he's at work, okay? Do not call that boy when he's at work. Hit him up afterwards, and even then he's still busy. So don't hit up my boy Ish. Hit me up, and then I'll direct you back to Ish, so then you can hit him up. But anywho, we're back once again as always. Let me throw everything back over to my guy Ish because I haven't seen him in a while. So how you doing, my brother? How's everything going?
Recovering, bro. I finally got hit with that flu that's been going around.
Yeah, you ain't the only one. Apparently, even in my workplace, a couple of folks they got it all right.
Yeah, it's been going up and down our street. Like all the kids and their parents, everybody's been getting it. It's been crazy. So it's good to finally be recovering.
See, we got a company dinner for. I'm not going to throw out my workplace out here, but our company lunch. I'm sorry, company luncheon. It will be at Taste of Texas next Wednesday, and I'm trying very hard to make sure that I stay healthy for that because let's just say we got some folks at the workplace that not saying that they're always sick, but I'm just saying that they're not at work all the time, and wouldn't surprise me at all if they're 100% healthy next week to be able to eat a nice steak lunch. So we'll see how that all plays out. Don't be surprised at all if I talk about that in the next couple of weeks from now on the week 15 recap show. I'll fill all y'all in on that one. But let's get right into the thick of things. Let's go all the way back in. Let's go all the way back to last Thursday. I know it seemed like it was such a long time ago, but I want to follow up with this game. I should say I want to start off with this game first and follow up with where we left off at last week when it comes to this Thursday night game. Obviously, the week after Thanksgiving, Cowboys usually play on Thursday again because they played on that Thursday. I think this was a very interesting game for the Cowboys. You have to go on the road as a 9.5-point favorite, which I honestly thought was a very high line for the Cowboys going into this game. The Seahawks, they are a team that was hoping that the success from last season was going to transition over into this season again. And it just seems as though it's just not there yet, but it's coming, right? And maybe it's just too late in the season for it to finally manifest into what they thought it was going to be. But I was looking at this game for the Seahawks where when it comes to maybe this is a game that they could steal from the Cowboys being at home on a Thursday night game. But the Cowboys definitely played their A game going on the road, being able to take care of the Seahawks.
The game was in Dallas, wasn't it?
I
thought the game was in Dallas.
Did I do this wrong? You know what? I am an idiot. My apologies.
I was like, I thought it was in Dallas.
Again, it happened so long ago, I forgot. My bad. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir, for correcting me. My bad. In Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium. Again, my apologies, everybody. So I've had.
Oh, you good?
I'm a father. Okay.
You good? It was a Thursday night game. So.
Anywho, the Cowboys took care of business at home. My apologies. That's the reason why I did pick the Cowboys, because they were at home. My apologies again. But the joke about the Cowboys this season is that they've beaten on teams that haven't had an over 500 record, and they haven't beaten a good team, right? I would consider the Seahawks as a good team, right? Not great, but a good team this season. They are above 500, but like the face that you're making, and I agree with you, Ish, when it comes to, is this really the measuring stick for the Cowboys? Probably not. It's probably this upcoming week 14, when they play the Eagles. That's really the measuring stick because of, excuse me, how we look at both of these teams, right? But even with the Eagles coming off of their loss, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later, some people still might discredit the Cowboys if they are able to beat the Eagles this upcoming week. Ish, I want to hear your thoughts about this game, and then also where the Cowboys could be headed to if they continue on with this success over the last couple of weeks. I mean, they've been putting up, I think what this is, let me just double check their points for over the last couple of weeks, because I want to say this is back-to-back. Yeah, back-to-back 40-point games. They've had 40 points in the last 3 out of 4 games, and have scored 40 points in the last 4 out of 6 games, which is pretty damn good. And you also, again, if you look at the teams that they played, the Rams are not that bad. Like, I'm not looking at the Rams as a Super Bowl contender, but they're not what they were last year, where they just completely gave up on the season. They're competing. They're playing better in the second half of the season. They're getting better in the second half of the season, but they're not what they were. So again, they put up 40 points on the Rams, put up 40 points on the Giants, and everybody said their mom was supposed to put up 40 points on the Giants, put up another 40 on the Commanders. Those two teams are divisional games, and we see throughout the league, anytime teams go against divisional opponents, sometimes those games are a lot closer than they're supposed to be, right? But for the Cowboys to come in and take care of business, you have to give them a little bit of nod, because we do get on the Cowboys if they don't take care of business, right? So for them to be where they're at right now, to have a 9-3 record going into the week where they play against the Eagles, this is the game that everybody for Dallas and Philly, for the most part, have been waiting on, to see the clash of the Titans for these two. And I want to hear your thoughts on this, because are we looking at the Cowboys as potential seriously Super Bowl winners, or potential Super Bowl contenders, I should say, this year comparison to the years prior? Yeah, we've had this show for a couple of years now. You at one point in time was riding on the Cowboys. You said this was the year. This is the year that's going to happen. I haven't heard it from this year from you, and I'm kind of surprised, because I'm looking at this team like, maybe this team is a little bit better than years prior, even though Trayvon Diggs is out. There's no Ezekiel Elliott. There's not those consistent faces that you see. But of course, you got Dak, you got CeeDee Lamb. The defense is playing well. Obviously, Michael Parsons is there. Could this be the year for the Cowboys, Ish? I want to hear what you got.
Yeah, no, we're going to have to wait and see how they play against the Eagles, how they play against the 49ers. I think there's a clear top of the NFC. When you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, you look at the San Francisco 49ers, they're the clear top 2 teams, and then it's everybody else. How close is Dallas to those top 2 teams? Well, it's hard to say, right? Like, we need to wait and see when they play them, how they play them. This game against Philly is going to be very interesting, especially with Philly coming off of a loss. I don't think that Philly was necessarily looking at this game like it was a measuring stick prior to that loss, but I think after that loss, they definitely are going to want to come out and make a statement and show that they are still one of the top teams in the NFC. So it makes this game a lot more interesting, because Dallas obviously needs to prove to everybody that they are the real deal. And Philly is going to want to prove to everybody that last week was just a fluke. So until that really takes place, I cannot place this Dallas team up there with those other 2 teams. I watched this game and I thought it went about how I expected. I think Seattle is a solid team, but I didn't think that Seattle would go on the road, go into Dallas and win this game. I do acknowledge that Dallas is a really good team, and Dallas is they're close to that conversation with those other 2 teams. I just don't think they're quite there as of right now. They just haven't shown anything as of right now to say that they deserve to be in there. Not because on their resume, they haven't played well. But I would say because historically, we have seen when they play these better teams, they don't tend to play as well as they do in some of these other games against the best of the rest, right? Um, so this game was a good game just for them to go through and handle business, as we often say. This was the kind of game where you got to go through and you got to handle your business. Um, but does it really put them in that conversation yet? I don't think so.
And I understand, and I just wanted to, of course, bring up the Eagles 5-game. I would call it the death slate that the Eagles fans have talked about when it comes to going on this Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills, 49ers, and then Cowboys again 5-game gauntlet, I should say, that they're going on. Again, if you talk to Eagles fans, I would say a logical Eagles fan, because there's not too many of them. Same thing with Cowboys fans. It's a lot of delusion there. But if you speak to a logical Eagles fan, you most likely you're going to lose at least one or two of these games. Like it's just very hard to win 11, 12, 13, 14 games in a season. Like it is what it is, right? Losing a game in the NFL is not like college where your ass out of the playoffs and out of the national championship game to where the season's over with. Most of these losses, in most of these games that you are going to compete in, if you know you're a good enough team, Cowboys, 49ers, Eagles, you might see that team again in the playoffs. So some of these games in regular seasons are really the chess match within itself to prepare yourself for the playoffs. Because just because you beat a team twice in the regular season doesn't mean you're going to beat them in the postseason. Just because you split, right? Just because you split and it's a close game doesn't mean that playoff game could be a blowout or it could be a close game. It could be a blowout for one of the teams that's involved, right? So
100%.
We've seen it time and time again that whatever happens in the regular season, sometimes you just got to throw that away, forget all that went on, and focus on this one game slate, because one game will either send your ass to the Super Bowl or take your ass home. And for the Eagles, they have been on they played 3 games in 13 days. That's a lot for a middle school, high school kid to play, let alone professional football players to play 3 really, really tough games in 13 days. I am not taking away anything from the 49ers. They went into Philly and straight up smacked that ass, and we'll talk about that shortly. But for the Eagles, I think that they are fine. Like, I don't think the sky is falling just yet for the Eagles. Even when the 49ers, remember when the 49ers just 5 or 6 weeks ago, when they had a couple of injuries and they were losing a couple of games, and everybody, oh, look, the 49ers, this is normal for them. The Niners are doing what they're doing in the second half of the season and trending upwards. And the Cowboys are doing it. Like I said, we'll see what happens with the Eagles after this game. But for the Cowboys, they are taking care of business, and they are doing what they need to do. Fracture One, that looks like he joined us a little late, but it's all good. Better late than never. He says, I'm late, but what's good, my boys? He says, X, are you finally on the Mayo bandwagon? Hell to the no. And also, they added Leonard to the Eagles, going to be fired. I'm happy that he brought that up. You want to touch on that right quick before we move on to the next topic there, Ish?
Say one more time.
Fracture One, I mentioned that, of course, Darius Leonard joined the Eagles in their linebacking crew.
Yeah. Saw that pickup. To be honest, it wasn't anything that really stood out to me or made me feel like, oh man, wow, they made this great addition. I feel like that team is already stacked. This is one of those it adds good depth to you, but how much of a major impact how this changes anything for them? It does. To me, it doesn't change anything. It just makes them more solid.
Can I say something about Darius Leonard, though?
Yeah, go ahead.
Great linebacker. Obviously, we have to see him twice a year, Titans and Colts and whatnot, and hell of a linebacker, not taking anything away from him. Ever since these back injuries that he's been having, it seems as though Indy might know something
different.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. He has not been who he once was. And anytime certain injuries happen, when it comes to your back, when it comes to your knees, when it comes to, if you're a quarterback, your shoulder or elbow, some of these injuries are lingering, reoccurring issues to where you're not the same. And for a linebacker, if you have some of these, like Van Der Esch, with his neck injuries and things like that, you can't play the position with some of these injuries. So the name itself, I think sometimes we get caught up on names, right? And I'm not saying fracture one, I'm just speaking in general. And we think, oh, wow, Darius Leonard to the Eagles, like, wow, that makes. But in reality, I agree with you. It's just like it adds more depth, great for them. But it reminds me of because the 49ers just picked up Logan Ryan. Logan Ryan is not what Logan Ryan used to be, right? I mean, this is not Logan Ryan for the Patriots. He wasn't Logan Ryan, not even the same version when he was playing for the Titans. So just because you add a piece doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, automatically going to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead. Since we've been talking about it, let's just go ahead and get straight into 49ers Eagles game. Let's go ahead and just talk about that right quick. Ish, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, you know what? To me, this game, I'm sorry to say it, and I know a lot of people will be like, well, but you always pick the Eagles. You pick the Eagles to win. It went about how I expected. Right now, as of right now, I think the 49ers are the team to be in the NFC. As much as I've been really high on the Eagles, as much as I talk about how great the Eagles are and how solid that defensive front seven is, and how Jalen Hurts always finds a way to make it work at the end of the day. This 49ers team is on a mission, and I think especially against Philly, they had a point to prove. And like you talked about earlier, like we normally talk about, there's a difference between playing in the regular season and playing in the playoffs. And I think they really wanted to prove to everybody that NFC Championship game last year was a fluke, that they're a better team, that they deserve to go to the Super Bowl, and they really had that chip on their shoulder and emotions were high. And like you brought up already, Philly is in the middle of a crazy stretch of competitive games. Eventually, they're going to have to lose a game. Like, let's be honest, every team goes in planning to win every single game and trying to win every single game. But the reality of the NFL is that eventually you're going to lose some games. And I think if we look at it just on paper, San Francisco needed this win more than Philly needed this win. That it's plain and simple, right?
Yeah,
like that's not to say that Philly wouldn't have, loved to have won the game, but San Francisco needed this win more than Philly needed to win this game. So when you, in the grand scheme of things, it's just one of those where if you're Philly, you take it on the chin and you say, all right, we're going to see y'all again later on. And if you're San Francisco, you feeling good, you're like, hey, it's exactly as we thought it was.
Like Debo said, I told you if Brock Purdy was healthy.
I told you. If Brock Purdy was healthy, we would have rocked y'all. So, we're looking at this game and we need to just enjoy this game for what it was. It was a great game.
Great game.
As far as
playoff atmosphere type of game.
Atmosphere kind of game.
Little scuffle on the sideline with a chief security officer.
I love it. And I mean, I did not take anything. I know some people are reading into this and they're like, oh, it's a wash. It's a wash. San Francisco 49ers is going to be the Super Bowl champion. Like, hey, pump the brakes. It's a regular season game that San Francisco came in charged up, ready to go.
You also, I just want to piggyback on what you're saying when it comes to the Eagles, when it comes to their stretch. People forgot or maybe just didn't realize, but the 49ers had 10 days of rest before coming into this game. And that definitely is something that, and of course, hindsight's 2020. I easily could have picked the 49ers when it comes to this game due to the rest, due to how they felt about last year, this, that, and the third. But like we spoke about, to me, regular season games, they matter, but they don't. Because if you meet this team again and you lose, the regular season game don't really mean anything. But overall, like you said, this is the 49ers game to win. Like they needed this win more than the Eagles. You come into this game with a 10-game rest, or 10-day break, I should say, prior to your previous game. everybody had a chip on their shoulder for the most part. Brock Purdy wanted to go out there and show them that, hey, if I was healthy, this would have happened. And speaking of Brock Purdy, let's just go ahead and call it what it is. Of course, he's in the race for MVP, and respectfully so. I mean, he's been playing lights out now. Of course, everybody can say that he's been throwing these 3-yard passes to Debo and 2-yard passes to Brandon Ayuk and just tossing the ball to Christian McCaffrey, who probably might deserve MVP votes more than Brock Purdy, which is understandable. But when you got a stat line 19 for 27, 314 yards and 4 touchdowns and no turnovers, it's kind of hard to discredit that, right? And look, system quarterbacks are a thing, but a lot of people like to throw out system quarterbacks and say it in a negative way, like, oh, you're a bum because you're a system quarterback, and that's just not the case at all. Tom Brady, of course, was a system quarterback at one point in time before they allowed him to be able to be the coach on the field. We've seen it with the Joe Montanas and the Steve Youngs and all these other quarterbacks who had to kind of, except for Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning pretty much got thrown into the fire and say, hey, you'll figure it out. And he did. But for Brock Purdy, he's probably in the best situation for him to be successful. Being with that 49ers organization, being with a coach like Shanahan, and being able to, if he needs to, reach out to Hall of Fame-like quarterbacks like a Steve Young, Joe Montana. Shit, if he probably want to talk to Kaepernick, he probably could talk to Kaepernick as well, too. He could probably holler at Alex Smith as well. My point is that when you have a lineage of greatness within a franchise like the Steelers and I'll throw out the Patriots as well, too, and the Cowboys and like we talk about the Eagles and 49ers, when you have lineage, from my opinion, it makes the next class of great players that you have that much better because it allows them to lean on somebody for some support because they've been there, done that. When you have teams like the Cincinnati Bengals, and no disrespect to the Bengals and Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow and that crew, they can only really look at it. They can't talk to Carson Palmer and Chad Ochocinco and be like, hey, how was it when you was at the AFC Conference Championship game? Shit, I don't know. Shit, we was Marvin Lewis. We lost in the first round every damn time. Hold on.
Don't be doing my boys like that. Don't be doing my boys like that.
It's just the facts of the facts. My point is that for Brock Purdy, he's in a hell of a situation. He's executing because just because you're set up for success doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to be successful because you got to go out there and go play. And he's doing what he needs to do. So I got to tip my hat off to him. I think this MVP race is going to be probably one of the closest races we've seen in a very long time. Same thing with the Heisman for college football. I think 3 guys easily could win the Heisman. I think that Heisman race is going to be very, very close. But for this game, I think because of the way that it transpired when it comes to it being a blowout, it's hard for me to really say, oh, yeah, if this was more of a grittier win, more of a win that, 49ers came in there, like I said, was able to get in there and really compete for this win, I probably might look at, maybe the 49ers, maybe they got, but because of just the shellacking, and I know it might sound like an oxymoron what I'm saying, but it's just one of those things where I have to wait again and wait to see how these teams play if they are able to meet up in the playoffs. Let me get to the comment section right quick. First one that says, facts-ish, that's why there has been only one team to go the whole season and not lose. Yes, the Patriots finished the season but lost in the Super Bowl. And, of course, that team he's talking about is the Miami Dolphins, coached by Don Shula. And Fresh One also says Hill is 519 yards away from crossing 2,000. If he does that, should he win MVP? I mean, us as receivers, Ish and I mean, we probably might be on the Tyreek Hill bandwagon because let's be honest, the last 15 years has been a quarterback award. The only person that's won it that's not a quarterback is Adrian Peterson in 06. So, what's up, Ish?
No, I was just going to say, I piggyback on that. I think it would be an amazing feat for him to go 2,000 yards, but and maybe it's just a little bit of like the underdog, like loving the underdog story and a little bit of hometown loving. But if the Houston Texans win the AFC South, I don't see how you don't give CJ Stroud the MVP. Like, we need to really start having that conversation.
Now look, and that's something. Hold on. I'm not saying you're wrong. Let's just save that conversation. Let's talk about the Texans in a second, because I wanted to talk about that. Let's just hold on. Let's get to that in a second. Let me finish with the comment from Fracture One, because I like where you're going. Let us get there first. Fracture One says Purdy fell right into the right team. Him and Mac Jones are exactly the same player, but Purdy has been a system, has a better system around. Yeah, first of all, sir, we are not about to disrespect Brock Purdy by putting him in the same sentence with Mac Jones. Okay, Mac Jones
better than him.
Is a bum. Okay, we're gonna leave it at that. He is up there with Zach Wilson. You better put Mac Jones in the same conversation as Zach Wilson and not Brock Purdy. We have never in Mac Jones's career with the Patriots have said Mac Jones and MVP in the same sentence.
Dang, it's like that.
That is straight like that. Okay. That's Brock, the only reason why Brock Purdy ever got benched was because he had to be the third string quarterback. And ever since, of course, Jimmy G does what he does, which is not be on the field, and then Trey Lance, of course, is in Dallas, the rest has been history. So what we're not going to do, I love you, Fracture One, you my boy, but we're not about to disrespect Purdy with Mac Jones. We're not going to do that. Fracture One says, I'm an O-line guy, and I believe Hill should win it, but only if he surpasses 2,000. That's a lock. I mean, I'm just being honest. 5 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, I mean, I don't see why it doesn't happen. I can definitely see it happen. All right, let's go ahead and move right to Broncos-Texans game, because Ish brought up something that was very, very important, and I wanted to discuss this on this show, and I'm happy he brought it up. So, Ish, take it away, sir.
No, I mean, we really sitting here, and if we're looking at the play from the Houston Texans and what they've been able to accomplish and just where they are right now as a team, I've got to look at what CJ Stroud has been able to do with this crew. And I got to say, he may need to be an MVP. Like, we maybe need to start having that conversation. Like, he has played out of this world, and there wasn't a lot expected from this team. I don't think very many people have picked them. I think X was one of the few that really felt that they could go far. I was more skeptical, only because of what they have done previously. They've never really been able to live up to that billing. And to look at them now and where they are and what they've been able to accomplish, a lot of that is due to this play of CJ Stroud. And we have got to start having that conversation a little bit more to say, what do we expect as far as for an MVP? What is the MVP award, I guess, is the better conversation.
Well, the ironic thing about that question is it kind of like the Heisman in college when it comes to the award itself? Are we awarding the best player? Are we awarding the most valuable to your team? As in, if you were to take you off this team, how will your team perform? Like what are what's the criteria on what you mean by quote unquote MVP? Because unfortunately, the way this is judged, a lot of this is subjective on how you look at an MVP. For myself, I look at an MVP when it comes to, besides winning games, how bad is your team without you there? So if you take away CJ Stroud, are the Texans as good as they are right now? Well, we saw last year how they played with Davis Mills. So, right, it's just one of those things where it's kind of obvious. Tyreek Hill, of course, is in the conversation for MVP because of the amount of yardage that he's racking, but also because of him, he opens up the offense for everybody. It's not just him. It's not just how great he is as a wide receiver and how fast he is. It's about opening up the whole offense for everybody to be involved, right? So even though he's a wide receiver, he's low-key a quarterback helping on the offensive side as well, too, being able to distribute the ball because of how much attention that he gets on the outside. Of course, you have, like I said, Brock Purdy will playing in a quote unquote system with great players around him help hurt his MVP chances. I think there are a lot of, Dak Prescott, right? You got Dak has been talked about when it comes to his numbers, but again, do you discredit his play because of the amount of talent that he has around him? Like these are some legit questions. See him, Christian McCaffrey, Jalen Hurts for the Philadelphia Eagles. There are at least 4 or 5 guys that we legitimately feel as though that can possibly win the MVP, but it just comes down to how these voters look at an MVP.
Yep.
100%. Let me get to the comment section right quick, and we'll, of course, finish this up in a little bit. Let's see. Fresh one that says, I got CJ at 4th right now, but if they make the playoffs, I'll have him in 1st.
What if they win the division?
Well, you just said if he makes the playoffs, I'm assuming by winning the division, you'll have him in 1st. Now, obviously, he can make a wild card spot, but we'll circle back in that in a second. My boy Justin Stabler, aka Bama, says only way he gets better is if he goes to the XFL, not Bill getting fired. Here we go with the jokes here. Frashwana says, but I'll say this is the perfect way to break this down. Is James Harden not winning MVP because Russ had a triple-double all season? James was better than Russ all season with a better record too. Like I stated, just in football with college and pro, they judge theirs differently. Different sports judge theirs differently as well when it comes to MVP, especially in baseball. They have a whole different separate criteria as well. So I understand your example because you're not wrong, but unfortunately in sports, especially in professional sports, when it comes to trying to create a narrative, that also is a thing as well too. So that's something we'll have to look at as well. Fractuana says he has Dak at number 1, Tyreek Hill number 2, Purdy at 3. So again, we all football guys, and we all have different opinions on how we're looking at these players. So I think that's what's intriguing about this MVP race, and it's not over with at all. We still got five more games left to play. So this season is not over with at all. Just Saber also says, if we talk MVP, I say Purdy and Stroud doing what MVPs do, and of course CMC if anyone. As you can see, he's a Cowboys fan, so he's not giving any love to Jalen Hurts. As you can see there, I'm pretty sure he'll probably talk about that brotherly shove sooner rather than later. But other than that, the Texans are ahead of schedule when it comes to this foundation year, and you have to give all the credit to D'Amico Ryans. You have to give all the credit to C.J. Stroud, but another person you got to give a little credit to, and I know if you're not in Houston, you probably say, whatever. You got to give a little credit to Cal McNair. Cal McNair, I think, decided to not follow his dad's footsteps and being the owner that his dad was and trying to be the owner that the Texans and the fan base need to revitalize this team. And if everything goes as planned the next 3 to 4 years, I mean, he could definitely be looked at in a tremendously different light here in Houston than just 5 years ago. So it'd be interesting to see how this all plays out. You have anything to say about this before we move on, sir?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right, we'll see what the Texans looking like moving forward. Also, we'll get that clip of in the offseason of me talking about the Texans winning 8 or even 9 games, and I will run that back for everybody so people won't. We got that on tape. We got it on tape, baby. Fracture Watson says Tank getting hurt is going to hurt, but I believe CJ will be okay without him because that was his deep threat, and that's something that we didn't mention, and I'm happy that he did bring that up. Yeah, that Tank Dell injury on Sunday, that was a very big blow. Obviously, they have Nico Collins, and you got the other guys that CJ Stroud makes look a lot better, but that connection with Tank Dell was organic, right? It wasn't forced. It was something that's been created before, honestly, before they even got drafted, right? So for Tank to be out, and something that we might need to also look into with Tank, because he's such a small body, is this something, because a broken fibula, very rare and just weird to break, will this hinder his progression as a wide receiver in the league? moving forward. I already stated on the show that he needed to gain another 10, 15 pounds moving forward anyways. I'm hoping with him being out, this will allow him to, besides rehab, but also put on some weight as well to be able to sustain, to be able to not have any injuries moving forward and be able to play the rest of the season without having to have some of these little nicks here and there. All right, let's go ahead and move on to a weird game because if you watch this game like I was on Red Zone, the Lions probably should have won this game 48-0. By the way, they started this game. I mean, quick, 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. I mean, I thought the Saints were going to get ran out of their own building. Besides me watching the game, I actually got front row pictures from my dad because my dad was actually in New Orleans for this game, sitting right behind the Lions bench. And, of course, he was hooping and hollering and was excited because his Lions were winning at first. And then that second half comes and the Lions went back to you remember that ugly ass throwback helmet that they was wearing with that skinny ass lion? That's what they went back to. They looked like they was hungry and they couldn't find the end zone to save their lives, but they was able to get out of New Orleans with a win. And my question to you is, are you concerned about these Lions moving forward? Do you trust in these Lions moving forward? Can you see them competing with these other 3 teams in the NFC that we talk about, Cowboys, 49ers, and Eagles, and when it comes to maybe being the final 2 teams in the NFC?
Can I keep it a buck with you?
Of course. That's what the show's about, baby.
I'm not concerned because I never trusted them to begin with.
Oh, Lord, here we go.
I never trusted them to begin with.
Here we go.
I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned about them. I don't know why everybody acting like, oh, the Lions this, the Lions that. Bruh, nobody was concerned about these boys. Nobody took them seriously to begin with. So that's y'all fault. If y'all were taking them seriously, then I pity y'all.
Damn, I'm going to have to break the news to my uncle the way you're talking about this.
Well, go ahead, break it to him.
My goodness.
I did not think they were going to do anything to begin with.
The thing about the Lions, and I've watched them a lot this season, when they're on, right? When they are firing on offense and their defense is playing well, they are on. But if they can't get a rhythm and they're 3 and outs and the defense, might give up a big play here and there, you start seeing body language change. You start seeing heads get put down. It's just we're waiting for. I think with the Lions, I think we're waiting for a leader to emerge, right? I think in football, and you've played football long enough, we talk about this all the time. Everybody automatically assumes the quarterback or the linebacker for the defense side of the ball are automatically the leaders. And that's just not the case at all on all teams. Sometimes it's defensive lineman. Sometimes it's a cornerback, right? Sometimes it's a wide receiver. But for the Lions, they need somebody to step up. Jared Goff been playing well so far. Again, there's been times he played great. Sometimes he played shitty, like 2 weeks ago where he threw like 3 or 4 interceptions and just played horribly. But for them, they need somebody to step up. I don't know if that's going to be Aiden Hutchinson. It probably might have been maybe C.J. Gardner-Johnson before he got hurt. But I mean, maybe Amar St. Brown. Maybe he might be the guy. But for the Lions, they need to. And it might be too late in the season, but they need to figure this shit out real soon because, like I've stated before, the 3 teams in the NFC, 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys, they are better than the Lions right now. Of course, we'll see how things look in the next month and a half from now once the playoffs get here. Maybe there could be a key injury for the Cowboys or the Eagles to where it gives the Lions an advantage once they match up in the playoffs. But for right now, I'm a little concerned. I'm not going to lie. I still love their 2-headed back system with Montgomery and Gibbs. I need them to step on throats. And what I mean by that is when you are up and you are beating a team like the Saints, 21-0 already in the first quarter, it should be no reason why this game should have been competitive at all. You should have put 40 points on this team and sent them back to Canal Street dancing because they're celebrating a funeral. That's what y'all should have done. But That's here nor there. You got out of there with the win. You lick your wounds. You move on to next week. But from the Lions, I need to see more of the raw back in them. That's all. Let's get to the comment section right quick. Fresh one says it scares me. He's talking about the Tank Dell injury. He says scares me because his injury reminds me of Will Fuller and his time in Houston. Well, I did tell you I don't draft a wide receiver from Notre Dame because we've seen the history of wide receivers from Notre Dame. So that's just it is what it is. On now, Fresh One also says, speaking of injury, do you think Carr will bounce back from his AC joint injury? We'll talk about that in a little bit. He also says they are who we thought they were, quote unquote, from Dennis Green, RIP. Also, the only people in Detroit thought they was going to do something. You got Lions fans everywhere. Fresh One, I promise you, they all around the United States. I've seen them all in Colorado. They out there as well too. He also said when it comes to the person needs to step up, he said it needs to be Penei Sewell or the star DN. He talking about Aiden Hutchinson, and as well step on throats and not bite kneecaps. Well, maybe you could do both. Shout out to my boy Lee. He's joining us on YouTube. He says Lions aren't ready yet. Need a few more pieces, not major superstars. They need great role players who are comfortable and consistent. I love that comment because that's a very underrated thing to have on a championship winning team, and that's having guys that know their role and know that when it's time for your ass to step up to be able to do that. So I definitely agree with what my boy Lee is saying there when it comes to finding some more high level role players from that aspect. But for the Lions, we'll see what they look like moving forward, but we'll go from there. We're going to talk about this game very, very briefly because guess what? This game, we're going to talk about this game about as many points that were put up in this game when it comes to 6. We'll talk about this game for about 6 seconds. Long story short, Patriots lose once again, dropped to 2-10. We've talked about it on the show plenty of times already when it comes to Bill Belichick and him probably not being the head coach for the Patriots next year. But right now, I mean, to get shut out at home against the Chargers, please tell me your thoughts on this game.
The Patriots are just a bad team. Let's just call it what it is. They're a bad team. And I know that we talk about like Mac Jones and we talk about, oh, well, Mac Jones this, Mac Jones that, and this offense. They're just a bad team, okay? They completely need to rebuild. I do think it's time for Bill Belichick to leave. I think it's time for Brandon Staley to leave for the Chargers as well.
It might be an open fire sale. You getting fired. You getting fired.
Yeah. I mean, granted, Brandon Staley has dealt with injuries in LA, but I think there are enough other issues that have popped up that he needs to go. And Bill Belichick, the time has come. Okay, this game was horrible. It was just horrible. I don't want to watch the Thursday night game, and I probably will not watch the Thursday night game this Thursday with the Patriots and the Steelers because the Patriots should not be playing on any primetime anything. They should only be forced upon the people up there in Boston. Outside of that, no one else should have to watch them.
I agree there, though. Nobody trying to watch that. My boy Lee says, honestly, Bill wanted to prevent this. He wanted Jimmy G. Kraft said, no, this is the result. Lee, let's be honest. Even if you had Jimmy G, even if you had Jimmy G, his ass wouldn't even be the starter by week 13 anyways because he would be hurt. Okay, so honestly, for Kraft, it saved him money anyways because Jimmy G wouldn't have been able to play the whole 17-game slate anyways because history has proven that once time and time again for Jimmy G. But the Patriots, I mean, it seems like they're still trying to find their Tom Brady heir apparent, right? Instead of just trying to get better overall as a team. At one point in time, it was Jarrett Stidham. I remember Patriot fans calling him the baby GOAT, which was just disrespectful as hell. And then, of course, you bring in Mac Jones. And look, apparently we have some different viewpoints on how we look at Mac Jones. I'm talking about my boys that's tuning in right now. And respectfully, look, I'll respect it. But from what I see, trash. I'm just being honest with you. And yes, it's easy to play the way he played at Alabama because you have 5 stars all over the goddamn building.
See,
But
but you got to say that.
but look, but what I will say though is just like we see with C.J. Stroud, we just talked about recently, that he doesn't have top-notch wide receivers, right?
Yeah,
But
but
he's
that's
still able to make it
different
work
though. That's different though.
because he's a better quarterback.
No,
That's
he's
what it
playing in
comes
a
down
better
to.
scheme. He's playing in a better scheme, honestly. And I would say this. For the Patriots, their issue is the Patriots way only works when you have a generational quarterback who is willing to take less money, allows you to buy a bunch of pretty good to solid pieces around them, both offensively and defensively.
Guys that are in the road of their career that want to come there and try to make a playoff run.
That's how the Patriot way works. The Patriot way does not work for a team that's rebuilding.
Not at all.
The Patriot way does not work for a team that has a below average or even average quarterback. The Patriot way will consistently get you a top 10 draft pick if you got a quarterback like that. And that's what we're seeing with Mac Jones. Mac Jones, I think, is an average to below average quarterback in the league. Okay.
I'm up on trash.
He had great players around him at Alabama that benefited him, but that's about it. He doesn't have much more to offer to you than a solid game manager who needs to be in the right system with the right pieces around him. That is not the Patriot way, and they need to stop that now. Like, stop the Patriot way, start going back to a conventional team building system. And if that means you got to get rid of Bill, go ahead, Bill, leave.
Frederick Warner says Kraft saved money and won a Super Bowl by not keeping point star Jimmy. He also says someone earlier said that Mac had talent around him. I would like to know who they were talking about. Juju not going to cut it no more. No running game, no O-line. My boy Lee says facts. Bill is employed off of his past achievements, not current. Bill is a hole in one drafter, either great or bust. In the last 10 years, they have been very bust as well, too, especially first round draft picks. So again, I didn't want to spend too much time on this. We'll circle back on the Patriots whenever they decide to let go of Belichick. We'll go from there. Lee also says, because this is actually Lee's team, he's a Patriots guy. He says the Patriots honestly survived off good defense and Brady not forcing anything. He took pay cuts, which is hugely underrated. Brady just took whatever the opposing defense gave him. My apologies. That also is another thing that a lot of people don't really realize as well, too. Tom Brady was in defensive meetings to figure out how they were going to play him so he can implement that on his offensive side as well, too. So that whole Patriot way, it's not just Belichick and not just Brady. It's them two plus the triangle effect of everybody up under them, making sure that they were able to make playoff runs and Super Bowl runs and things of that nature. But that shit is gone. Okay, so y'all better figure it out real quick over there in New England, or y'all ass is gonna be
you're gonna be
going back to the pansies era. Real talk. All right, let's go ahead and follow up with the Chiefs and Packers. Ish, of course, is your team. Take it away, sir.
After losses, I normally get on here and I say things like, "Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's another loss." The Chiefs, they're not really about this kind of stuff. They're worried about the playoffs. They're worried about winning championships, so on and so forth. Can I just say I'm tired of saying that? Can I just be honest and say I'm tired of that? I'm tired of sticking up for this team. I'm tired of, it's not necessarily making excuses, but consistently having to explain like why the team is just going out there and just playing lackluster when they should be winning these games. They need to figure something out with the receiver position. They're not on the same page with Patrick Mahomes. That it's clear with some of the throws that are going on, with some of the interceptions that are thrown. It's all miscommunication, and at this point, it is starting to become a problem. It is becoming a problem. It's not a good look. A team should not get used to losing these games. And that's what they're getting used to now. I'm going to go ahead and say it that this team is not a Super Bowl contender at the moment, not in their current state. This team is a solid playoff team. That's about it.
Okay. I ain't lie. I thought you had a little bit more to that, but it looks like
I mean, there's not much more to say until they figure this stuff out. What should I say?
I think
it's been weeks now where we've been talking about the same things over and over again.
I think the most eye-raising thing about this game is the performance that Jordan Love put on. Right? You know, we know
great performance.
We know who Patrick Mahomes is. We know what he can do. The numbers itself, you know, it is what it is. I think we are spoiled by Patrick Mahomes at this point. But Jordan Love, 25 for 36, 267, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, right? And the ironic thing about Jordan Love and this Green Bay Packers team is, and I'm not going to compare his record and his numbers to Aaron Rodgers his first year. I'm not doing that dumb shit. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at his progression as a quarterback with this team just from this year. Started off good, a little hot, cooled down a little bit, picked it back up, ran into a road bump, and now the last couple of weeks have been playing some really, really good football. And I think because of, we just talked about a guy like CJ Stroud, some people, unfortunately, because of how good they are, make things look a lot easier, right, than it should be. But a guy like Jordan Love, I like his mentality when it comes to being able to go through adverse situations and be able to prevail and keep it moving, because he easily could have folded when he threw, I want to say 3 interceptions one of these games or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, there was the Bears game. There have been numerous games where it's been questionable.
I want to say he threw 3 interceptions one game and 4 interceptions another game. And I have him as one of my guys throwing less than 12 picks this year on my prize pick slip, and we're teetering. I think we're at 10 interceptions right now, so I'm holding on, you know, to dear life. Hopefully, he don't get to that 12 interception mark. But I love the progression watching Jordan Love, and I was actually talking about this at the office at work when it comes to the Packers. Just like the Steelers when it comes to head coaches, the Packers when it comes to quarterbacks have been spoiled by Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. And are we going to see another 15, 20-year run with Jordan Love? Like that, hey, I'm trying to figure this out, because we all know that this is Jordan Love's last year of his contract. So the Packers are going to have to figure out, are they going to keep him? Is he going to be the guy? Are they going to give him the money, or are they going to go into the draft, or maybe a free agent, or maybe, you know, free agent, or maybe trade somebody? We don't know what they are doing within the managerial part of the Packers organization, but I think maybe they got another one. You know, at least a guy for the 5 years, right? And if they continue to just, you know, surround them with guys here and there, maybe the Packers could be a team in the next 2 or 3 years that could be back in those playoffs. What you think is?
No, I agree. I think with the NFC North the way that it is, I mean, Detroit, they're there and they're talented, but they're not consistent enough that you would say, like, hands down, there's no way a team is going to compete with them. So, yeah, I mean, Chicago's got a long way to go, obviously. So you're looking at this Packers team, and this Packers team is right there. They could be competing with Detroit next year for the division.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I definitely agree on that. And we'll see how the Vikings, what they do in the offseason.
Well, they've got a lot of questions they've got to answer as well.
They got a lot of questions. Fracture Wanda says, Ish, has the league figured out Mahomes and Reed and how to stop them for real? He also says, I honestly thought the Packers were going to be a top 5 pick looking for a quarterback. And that's the best thing about sports. You know, just because you come into the season looking a certain way on paper doesn't mean that it's going to be like that once you start playing these games. So I think the Packers are one of those teams. Broncos right now are one of those teams where, you know, started off weird in the first part of the season. Now they look a lot better. So, you know, we'll see how that all plays out. Lee says what happened is the skill gap has caught up, just like any great player who comes in the league. He is getting better. Growth is there. He's winning the trust of the team and coaches. You can see the culture shift. And he's talking about Jordan Love for the Packers, especially with the division honestly being open. It's possible. I don't know about this year. I think next year. I think the Lions take the division this year, next year, and from there on, we'll see how that all plays out for the Packers. Lee also says give him a 5-year front load the cash, give him some pieces. Again, we'll see how it all plays out. I think it's a smart decision, and because of the history of the Packers have of quarterbacks, is to let them stay there, let them see how you play it out, and maybe you can get the Packers back to where they once were. But great performance. I just got to tip my hat off to Jordan Love on that. Great performance by him. Would you like to answer the question from Fracture Walnut there before we move on, Ish?
Yeah, I'm thinking, to me, some of it is ego. I think the situation with Eric Bieniemy and the Tyreek Hill situation, I think those things in and of themselves aren't signs of like, oh man, you really missed those guys. But what it is a sign of, and what it has proven to be a sign of, is that maybe these guys believed the hype so much that they started to create their own version of the Patriot way. They thought, hey, it don't matter who we got at wide receiver. We can do it. We can win this. Patrick can carry these guys. The defense is going to be good enough. It's always going to be good enough for us to stay in the game, and then Pat's going to create some magic. And I think when you really look at it and when you really get down to it, the NFL is too good for you to rely upon people making mistakes or just giving you some of these give me balls that you were able to get when you have better athletes.
Unless you're playing the Bills.
Unless you're playing the Bills, yeah. I mean, like, you don't have the same athletes that you had before, but you're trying to scheme and play like you still got the same athlete.
It's low-key kind of ludicrous.
But it's the ego, right? Like,
no, I agree.
I think it's gotten to the point where Andy Reid believes he is this great play caller that can create plays for anyone.
We can do ring around the Rosie. We can do ring around the Rosie if we want to, right?
Yep. We can do ring around the Rosie. Like, it's gotten too cute. It's similar to what I talk about Kyle Shanahan with San Francisco at times, where you almost get too into the whole planning and game plan stuff that you just like, you know what? I'm going to do a triple reverse flea flicker. Like, you just start creating all these crazy things just because you think like, oh, I can.
Forget about the annexation of Puerto Rico as well.
Man, he's throwing all them things in there.
All right. Well, it seems like that was the answer for that. Well, let's go ahead and move on after this comment. Lee says, no, Pat needs a good run game, play action to Kelsey. That's the scheme. Tyreek opened the offense, which benefited Kelsey. If they don't get a good outside threat, Kelsey would end up like Gronk. Yep. I think the running game with Pacheco, and my question is, before we move on, what the hell is CLH? Clyde CEH. Clyde Edwards. What the hell is that?
Yeah, he is.
I remember on draft day, the Chiefs fans were just so ecstatic. They just felt you in general just felt it was the easy plug and play. He was going to be the guy moving forward, this, that, and the third, and he was that guy.
The guy now.
He is. No, he is, and he deservedly so. But it just seems as though that Clyde Edwards was hilarious, kind of just drifting in the darkness for whatever reason over there.
He's gone. He's the backup.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up tonight with the Monday Night Football game that we watched last night, which is surprisingly wasn't actually a damn good one without Joe Burrow at QB1 for the Bengals. But speaking of cute plays, like you just mentioned with triple reverses and this, that, and the third, the Bengals at one point in time, they were beating the Jaguars and taking care of business. And I do know that the score shows that the Bengals won this game. But if you actually watch the game, the Bengals were taking care of business with Browning at quarterback, playing really, really good football. And then all of a sudden they wanted to get cute with the play calling and have Chase throw the ball and T. Higgins throw the ball and just like, what the hell are y'all doing? I'm like, what are y'all doing? And it almost cost them the game. You know, like you said, if something is working, if you're running the ball up the middle, why in the hell I'm trying to throw the ball deep? If I'm getting 10 yards up the middle and nobody wants to tackle Derrick Henry, you keep feeding damn Derrick Henry. And for this game, the Bengals, Zach Taylor almost lost him a damn job because he wanted to change the damn play call for whatever reason, and instead of sticking what works. But besides the Bengals winning the game, the biggest story of this game, the most important story is Trevor Lawrence and his ankle injury. I haven't seen any reports yet today about the status of him. Have you seen anything yet? Because I know I haven't. I've been waiting on it, but I'm assuming he isn't out for the season. I don't think he'll be out for the season. It seems like it was a high ankle sprain.
That's what they said.
So if that's the case, then minimum 2 to 3 weeks. I wouldn't say he might be out, but he's definitely going to feel some pain. So I'm expecting for him to miss at least maybe one game at least. But if Trevor Lawrence is out for an extended time, how are we looking at these Jaguars?
Not as highly as we were looking at them before. I mean, without Trevor Lawrence, we just saw what Jake Browning did against these guys. So I'm not going to say that they're doomed, but with the way that CJ Stroud is playing right now, the Titans and the Texans are right there, one game back.
Stop. Don't you bring no damn Titans into this.
The Titans and the Texans, one game back. Who knows? Will Levis, he might just do a thing or two. He might, have that talk that he needs to have with DeAndre Hopkins.
The Titans are 4-8. They play the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. Stop. Okay. The season is over for the Titans. Go ahead and get ready for Cancun. I'm just being honest. Again, I'm not going to be here to sugarcoat anything for y'all. I'm being real. But I will say though,
the Colts and the Texans are just a game back.
The Colts have a better chance of winning the division than we do. I'm just, they're probably going to do it. But anyways, my boy Lee says they let Ocho coach. He says it's the Bengals way. You would know because of course you used to rep your boy Ocho back in the day. He said,
for
rejections
sure.
the rest of the season for Trev, and also Titans are disappointing. Yes, you and me both know that very well. The Titans are very disappointing this year. I'm just going to leave that alone. But again, for this game, besides Trevor Lawrence being hurt and the status for the Jaguars, did Jake Browning just put out an audition tape for himself these last couple of weeks to where he might be? No, seriously, no. Think about this. No. I ain't saying for the Bengals. I'm not saying for the Bengals. I'm talking about for another team.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. No,
okay, but I'm just saying we've seen it before to where you see a guy step up and be able to perform well as a starting quarterback and a team. And I'll give you a great example. When the Seattle Seahawks decided to take on Matt Flynn and give him that huge contract because they saw what he was able to do. And then Russell Wilson comes in and says, you know what, I'm a better quarterback than you. I'm going to go ahead and take the starting job, and the rest is history. My point is that we've seen this before. Like this isn't a crazy thing that could happen. Maybe a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if they move on from Baker and they need a quarterback. Maybe a team like the New Orleans Saints. And my apologies, Fraction One, I didn't talk about that AC joint, but since we are talking about these quarterbacks and whatnot, how do you feel about Derek Carr and his AC joint? Is this something that because of his age, is this probably the end of him as a quarterback in this league? Because this season has not been what he thought the Saints thought it would be and any of that. So is this the beginning of the end for Derek Carr in New Orleans? Again, if that's the case, it doesn't seem like New Orleans is committed to Jameis. They don't want to play Taysom as a quarterback all the time. So again, I will state it right now here on XtalknIsh. Jake Browning will be a starting quarterback. Maybe not next year, but he will be a starting quarterback for another team somewhere moving forward. Mark my word, put it down. Bada bing, bada boom. And when I'm right, we're going to run this tape back and I'll be like, I told you so.
Bro, what we saw, you know what? If he is a starter, you know what it's going to be?
I'm listening.
It's going to be exactly what I thought it to be when I saw this. And it was against a perfect team. He's another Gardner Minshew. Okay? He's another Gardner Minshew. He might start a couple games. He might be able to play a couple games here and there.
I like that comparison too.
But he's another Gardner Minshew. Like he's solid. He's a solid, good little backup that's gonna play a couple of games, win you a couple here or there. He's gonna be able to sprinkle in here and there.
And ironically, both of those quarterbacks played in the state of Washington.
See, hey, I'm telling you, it's guard. As soon as I saw him and he was playing solid like that, I wasn't like, oh, dude, this is crazy that they got this sorry dude playing great. I was like, okay, it's Gardner Minshew 2.0.
So what you're saying is, I'm right. When it comes to sooner or later, he'll be a starting quarterback somewhere in the NFL. Bada bing, bada boom. Damn it, I'm right.
Yeah, sure, you're right.
Thank you, Ish. I love you too. I love you, man. I love it. Let's get to the comment section. He says, Fraction One says, but do risk the future of Trev for a couple of games, or just move forward and see what happens. We'll come back to that comment in a section because in a second we got to get up out of here. Fraction One says Browning to the Pats next year.
Maybe.
Browning. Fraction One also says Browning the new Fitz Magic. Let's pump your brakes, everybody. Pump your brakes. Everybody can't be Fitz Magic. Let's pump your brakes there.
Yeah, everybody can't be Fitz Magic.
Lee says he is done when it comes to Derek Carr and his AC joint. Lee also says Atlanta, New Orleans, Carolina, Tampa Bay, aka NFC South. The division is terrible. I think Tampa Bay is in front right now when it comes to. Oh, he's talking about. Never mind. He's talking about Atlanta is actually in front when it comes to the standings. But all four of those teams, maybe except for Carolina, could be looking for a quarterback next year. So I don't think it's something that's unforeseen. Again, maybe somebody might. And watch out. Again, obviously, we talk about those three-headed monsters for the Bengals wide receiver core. Obviously, somebody going to throw a bag at T. Higgins. So that Cincinnati team might get depleted sooner than they think in this offseason. Let's go ahead and wrap it up tonight with Fraction One's comment. He's asked about Trevor Lawrence and what do you do with him and the team moving forward, Ish?
You keep Trevor Lawrence and keep doing what he's doing. Trevor Lawrence is he's a good quarterback. He just needs the.
I think he's talking more about the health though when it comes to his ankle injury.
You got to keep playing him.
Okay. I thought you were saying it as in like
No.
We're not gonna play him due to his play or whatnot. Okay.
Nah, bro, you got to play that man. I get that he's hurt, but you got to play him. You're in a division title. You're in the division title race right now. Like you're actually in a race now. You got teams one behind you, and one of those teams is hot as hell.
All right, I agree. I just you gotta protect the franchise. You gotta protect the asset as well. An ankle is something that yes you can rebound from, but you just don't want it to get stepped on again, right? You just don't want something to happen, especially in the pocket. He's a pocket guy, so we'll see how it plays out. Lee says, I love the content, X and Ish. Y'all gel well. I will tune into more shows. Good night. I appreciate that. He's tuning in Georgia over there. So, of course, he is an hour ahead. So go get your rest there, my boy. We appreciate you as always. Freshwater says, this might be the first year where all quarterbacks and coaches might be replaced in the NFC South. I don't think they give up on Bryce Young just after 1 year. They can't do that. I don't think you do that. You got to surround that guy. You got to surround that guy with a little bit more talent, and then see where Bryce Young can be and where he can be at. But I've already stated this on the show. I've said it millions of times. My fear with Bryce Young always was his size, and we'll see how that all plays out moving forward. But at the Panthers, man, if Bryce Young isn't what they thought they were going to be, he definitely could set that franchise back a couple of years. So
100%.
We'll see how that all plays out. Other than that, is there anything you want to tell the folks before we get out of here?
Not too much, man.
All right. As always, tune back in on Sunday for our pregame show of Week 14. Season's almost over, guys. I know you guys were just talking to us at Week 4, and now, hey, here we are, Week 14, and we on out of here. So, Fraction One says, love the show. Peace out, fellas. See you Sunday. We'll see you as well. Week 14 pregame show. Thank y'all as always. Week 14 recap show will be on Tuesday here at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern time. Thank you guys as always. See you next time.